What's up, YouTube? So we're shooting for 400 wheel horsepower or around there, maybe more, maybe a little bit less, on a VF series turbo. If you saw my other video, if you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'll show the turbo here in a sec next to the stock one that I just took out. This is a modified G25 VF series turbo. They threw a G25 turbine and compressor wheel. It's not just the compressor wheel that's been done for like 2 decades that gives you like another 15 horsepower. This is the turbine as well has been replaced. So I have both out, or I have both here. This is a VF 37 variant. I have a VF 30 here that I may do this with as well. I don't need it, but just in case I have that. But this is a twin scroll setup, but this works for all VF series, not just the VF 37. The housings are pretty much the same on the front and what they can take in the back. So you can clearly see the differences on the turbine side here. Again, we have an 11 blade here stock, and then the 9 blade. You can see this is the G25 upgrade. So much bigger there. On the front, you are going to see obviously compressor wheel changes as well. So let's turn these puppies around, and obviously it's a lot prettier because it's been ceramic coated. Stock, and then upgraded. Again, looks beautiful too. I got everything painted. I didn't actually shit this, so this wasn't able to get painted, but looks like it's a beautiful looking turbo. Let's get this puppy installed, and then after we do that, we will go get it tuned. And I'm going to get an electronic tune, so I always do e-tunes where I can actually drive it. And then I get revisions back and forth. So we'll go back and forth, get it tuned, and then see what it kind of puts out. I would show the install process. It's pretty easy though. It took me like 20 minutes to get the turbo out. Just the downpipe, you remove that. You don't even have to remove it all the way, but the downpipe, and then you're literally, unless something's in the way, like I had an air oil separator in the way, you're literally just going to unbolt the turbo from the up pipe. Take off a couple hoses. It's going to leak coolant everywhere, and then you just pull her on out. So it's not that big of a deal. Let's get this puppy installed. Again, before she goes in, again, same size housing. Nothing's changed, just the internals are changing. So again, shouldn't experience any more lag. Just should experience more power. It's going to hold boost higher. This one tapers off a lot by redline. I rev to 8K on this EJ207. This is a 2-liter STI motor, so it revs out to, from like 2005, this revs out to 8,000 RPMs. By 8,000 RPMs, I'm only seeing about 16, 17 pounds of boost. There's ways to make it, the VF series, like have more boost at redline, but even if you do have more boost, it's probably not going to produce that much more power. Just pushing hot air at that point, extremely hot air, just way out of the turbo's efficiency range. So this should help that, and let's get that puppy installed. Oh, before we install it, just wanted to show what I'm going to do to be priming it. So basically what I'm going to do is take off this. You need to prime a turbo if you like never done an install before. Most people do it one way. I'll show that way too, but I do it 2 ways. So basically I'm going to take this banjo bolt off, put on this minuscule funnel, or have a syringe or anything like that, or something like that, put that on here, pour just a little bit of oil through as I'm spinning it. And then obviously most of it's going to leak out the bottom because this is gravity fed down here. You just want to get it started, right? Just get a little bit of oil in there. Then what you do is once you're done installing it, before you start the car, just pull the ignition fuse, fuel pump fuse, pull something to where it won't fully start. And then you can go ahead and just crank it a few times, just kind of push oil through the turbo. You don't want to dry start a turbo, just install it and then just start the car. You definitely want to prime it. This thing, the RPMs are 10 times, 100 times faster than what the motor's running. So you want to definitely prime this before you just install it. Just thought I'd say that. Okay, so at the computer now, we're looking over the dyno results after the tune. So I'm going to show you 3 separate graphs here, but all in all, before I go into them, excellent upgrade. I'm not really one for power getters. I'm more one for spending on the brake suspension, lightweight, anything other than power. There's other ways to make a vehicle fast, I think. But with that said, I was looking for something, A, if I was going to spend money on power, a very small amount, B, something that was identical to stock, just with more of it, and C, somewhere not really more than around 400 wheel horsepower. So let's go through and see what happened here. It looks like...
Recording in progress.
Okay, so as you can see here, this is the dyno graph of before and after on pump gas. So this is the, as you can see, the stock VF series with all the modifications I already had, and then the modded VF series. So we're looking at nearly a 60 horsepower increase and what, a 26 foot-pound of torque increase. The only modifications that were done in between these two is literally just the turbo. Only modification done. Nothing else was done. We gained 60 horsepower and 26 foot-pounds of torque, which alone, some people don't have E85 readily accessible. This is about what I made on ethanol. I made about 350 on ethanol with the stock VF series turbo. So my mods, again, I can go over those, but my mods are just 1300cc injectors, AEM 340 hardwired, the fuel pump. I bought an FPR, an adjustable FPR. Well, I guess that is a difference, an adjustable FPR. That really helped keep the fuel kind of more solid. But I mean, that isn't really that's more of a, I mean, the fuel was already present. So that's more just keeping things kind of solid throughout the rev range. I'm not really going to pick up horsepower with an FPR unless you're adding, to the fuel pressure so you can run a little bit different. So aeromotive FPR, AEM 340, 1300cc injectors. That's all I have fuel-wise. Those three things are pretty much all you need. 1300cc injectors are huge, so they're more than capable of doing this. And then I have the turbo, stock pipe and headers. Mine are equal length because I'm a twin scroll setup, and then catless Turboback. So that's all I have in the exhaust. And then I'm running speed density. You don't need to be running speed density for this. It just makes things easier. I may make another video on speed density and MAF and just how you should set your car up. If you want something similar to this is kind of like the high goal that most, I think, should really shoot for without going and building the internals. This on ethanol, this is pretty high. So we have that here. We have the 358 and 300. You can see the boost. Almost identical, maybe 1 psi more. I think I was running 19 here, and I'm running about 20 here on pump. But the difference is across the rev range as we go through, it just holds 19 the whole way. As on pump, I was tapering down to about 16 or 15 psi. So there is no spot on the red line here where I'm below stock. Just beats everything. There's no lag, no extra lag, nothing. You can see the boost almost comes in quicker with this turbo. I found no ill effects at all. Nothing to say like, but there's just nothing. I can't find anything. Turbo was very easy to install. It was just like stock. I'm running an internal wastegate, the stock one, just nothing crazy. Okay, so next, probably the one that everyone wants to see. This is E85. You can just look right at these numbers right away, 423 and 378. Sweet Jesus, this thing is fast. I'm running about the same, maybe a PSI more. It's like, I think it's right around 24 and a half PSI. This one was only running 24. So, but the boost comes on pretty much the same. I didn't log at the exact same speed. So, I mean, you can look at it. They come on at pretty much the exact same time. No extra lag. There's differences in air fuel here. The reason there's differences in the air fuel ratio was the one thing I did mod, and I said I didn't mod anything. Well, the FPR, that doesn't really count. I hardwired the fuel pump. and before I thought I had hardwired it correctly, but I changed things up and hardwired it in the sense where it's running 100% all the time. There's no point where when you turn the key, the fuel pump runs at 100% and doesn't stop until you turn the key off. I have it kind of wired into the fuel pump controller to where if the fuel pump controller is sending any signal, 30, 33, 60, 66, or 100% fuel pump duty, it's just giving it the fuel pump is running at 100%. And what that did was that allowed me to run consistent AFRs, very consistent. You can see it was kind of choppy with the blue ethanol here because it needs more fuel. Now I'm just running. There's pros and cons to doing this. Obviously, one of the cons is your fuel pump's running at 100%. It's probably not going to last quite as long. I'm going to plan on replacing it. I mean, the fuel pump's like $80. I'll plan on replacing mine probably once every couple of years. Just err on the side of caution and replace it, so I'm not on the side of the road. But I already have a spare one lined up. If you drive your car daily, I don't know if I would recommend doing it. This is more of a once a week kind of track build. So, but going up here to the numbers that everyone is probably concerned with more, 354 was the number for E85 on the stock VF series, and then 423 was on the this modded VF. Whew. So there is, again, they were logged kind of at different points. Maybe you could say down here, but I mean, that's like, we're talking like when you're in like the 100 horsepower range or the 100 foot-pound of torque. Everywhere we gained something. Nowhere did we lose anything. It just constant, like this gap here is so huge. I mean, this is literally like almost an 80 horsepower gap. And we're talking a 50 foot-pound gap here. So just huge. So this modification on E85, just to summarize, 80 extra horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque for $500 and about, 3 hours of install time if you don't know what you're doing and you take your time. Obviously, you need to tune after that. So, I mean, I got an e-tune. Again, I'll go into that process a little bit later, but that's crazy. Again, this is 25 PSI. This is like my kill mode, if you will. I just wanted to see what it would do on this pretty much the same pressure, kind of leaving it kind of the same. So we'd have like a good comparison. And I will run this on the street because I drive it rarely on the street. Maybe if I drive it once a week, I'll maybe go hard on the gas, like, once, twice a month. So I'm not really, you don't want to run 25 PSI on stock internals or 24 PSI like regularly. But so I talked to the tuner and I said, let's turn it down for the track, right? Let's turn it down for the track. And that is this. So this is right around 20.5, around 21 PSI, which is what you're normally going to see. And we're looking at 401. So 401, 400 horsepower on 21 PSI, 350 foot-pounds of torque. Very solid AFR. Just looks great. This is what I'll run at the track. This is where I'll run most of the time when the car's on. Again, but on the street, I'll do the kill mode just to scare my friends if they want to ride in it. But this is like, if you want to be very conservative, you could go down even lower. Like to hit the same amount of horsepower that I had before, about 350, you could run this thing probably at about 16 or 17 PSI, which is crazy, and get like 350 horsepower. 360 on E85 and be very, 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 very conservative. That'll last a long time. That's like as much like the same PSI as stock, right? And you're running on E85, which is very knock resistant. Cooling, has those cooling properties, so it would last a long, long time on that. Obviously, I want a little bit more, not too much, but a little bit more. So we'll go into. I mean, that's how that ended up very, very well. Now we'll go into the Dragy stuff. So let's do that. Okay, so I do personally when I use a Dragy. Well, let's back up a little bit. For a Dragy, if you're not familiar with what a Dragy is, it's a Bluetooth device connecting to your phone or something like that, a tablet, your laptop, that actually uses GPS satellites and time, your vehicle data, to determine quarter mile times, 0 to 60 times, 60 to 130 times. Various times, people use this with extreme accuracy. I've taken it to the drag strip. They're pretty famous. Most people have probably heard of them, but I mean, you take the drag strip with them on 10-second cars, or getting within like less than, you know, 100th of a second with what the time slip says and what the Dragy says. And same with the speed. Getting the same speed, trap speed on the Dragy, literally within 100th of a mile an hour from the time slip to the Dragy. So people have done these tests over and over again. They're very, very accurate. Dragys are a little bit better, like, because you can do it at your convenience. That's the biggest thing. Kind of test your modifications and see how your car's doing. See if what you're doing is actually making it faster. So I bought one of these a little bit ago. You may have seen it on my Instagram. I think I did like a quarter mile just on like a open stretch of road, which, looking back, I could have done a whole lot of things different, but it ran pretty well. But the better test for me, not a 0 to 60, not a quarter mile, 60 to 130, yeah, that could be good. But going 130, you're going to need a lot of runway for that, like a lot of runway. So what I do is I actually use 40 to 80 mile an hour time. So there's a custom mode on it. I set it to 40 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. And the reason I do that is because by that time, most cars are 40 miles an hour. You should have traction for the most part, unless it's wet or you have a shit ton of horsepower. You should have traction at 40 miles an hour. And so I think that's a good barometer. 40 to 80. Also, you're not really speeding so much, especially if you're doing this on an on-ramp, something that isn't really sloped. If there's too much of an angle or slope down, then it won't mark the report that you get, which I'll show in a sec, as valid. So what I'm going to show here is the before and after, the 40 to 80 before on just ethanol, the unmodded VF series, and then the pump gas, and then E85. Well, it was more like, actually, like right now I think I'm running still like E68 or E69, so because I had like a little bit of gas left, so I'm not even at a full E80, so it'll lean out a little bit, but we'll show those times right now. So here it is. Here is this is ethanol on the stock VF 37 with the same mods I have before. This is everything before I did the turbo. So this is before the turbo. 3.97 seconds, 40-80, which is pretty fast. It's very respectable. Somewhere around 4 is pretty respectable. I think a stock Supra. I'll post a link. There's a Reddit post or several, or you can just look up online. 40-80 times for various cars. Actually, this is a pretty common test. So a stock Supra does around a 4.1, 4.2. So we're looking at around the stock Supra range, maybe a little bit faster than that, right? So a little bit faster than a Supra. That's like a newer Supra that's put in a B58. That's a good kind of like comparison, right? Just a slightly faster than that. Obviously, no one's going to keep those cars stock, but I mean, this is what you get with the fastest model Supra right around here. Okay, so that was that. You can notice this dip here. This is the dip in the acceleration. You see the orange is because I shifted. So I actually did this test, and I wish I would have done it before, and I can't really go back, but I wish I would have done it just staying in third, like staying in third the whole way, because on these other two ones, you're going to see I just stayed in third. Because I had more torque down low, I was able to just stay in third, and it wasn't really like just, it didn't feel as laggy. It didn't feel like I was just bogging down the motor. So I can do these other ones in second and third, but I feel like this is just a good test just to stay in third. That way there's no shifting, there's no extra parameters involved. So this did involve the shift. You could say that hurt me, or you could say that helped me because I was in my power band for more of it. Obviously more of it. And then the shifting part took about, a half second at least. So that would add some time to it. But again, we're more in our power band. We're staying in that the whole way. So here we go. Here is the pump gas. So this is E85 stock VF series over here. And then over here is pump gas on the modded VF. So this is the modded VF, what we just did. We just fixed 3.59 seconds. So we already saw nearly like 0.4 of a second jump in 40 to 80, which is a significant jump. That's obviously, if you talk about a tenth of a second being, like a car length in the quarter miles, it's almost the same here in 40 to 80. So imagine like 3 or 4 car lengths difference in terms of like, if you were racing yourself 40 to 80, you'd be like up here as opposed to like 4 car lengths, three car lengths in front of yourself, pretty much. And then we get into the crazy stuff. So this right here, let me move this over. This is let me get this, move this a little bit. There we go. This is the 85 kill mode. This is the 420. This is 3.1 seconds. This is crazy fast. But I mean, obviously it's not, there's faster cars out there. I mean, even stock cars, they're faster than this, like crazy, crazy fast. Again, no shifting. This is just keeping it in third, because especially on 85, I had a shit ton of torque. At around, I started at about 35 and then went into 40. Yeah, it is fast. To put it into perspective, again, I'll put a link in the description to like for 40 to 80 respectable times, or just 40 to 80 times for production cars. The Hellcat that I always like make fun of is like it's a quintessential like drag car, like that's its bread and butter, is 3.1 seconds 40 to 80. Granted, it may still be burning. It probably is burning out. 3.1, the same as a Hellcat. A Nissan Skyline GTR, the new ones, the newest ones, are 3.2 seconds. You're already beating that. A Nissan fucking Skyline GTR. Again, these are the stock unmodified versions. And a Carrera GT3 RS. Like, this is beating those cars. Like, this is already like beating those. Some would say supercars. Hellcat maybe not a supercar, but in the drag aspect of it, sure. But yeah, holy shit. This is very, very, very fast. Very fast. So was this worth it to go down 8, almost 9/10 of a second in the 40 to 80? That is nuts. Like, that is a huge upgrade. You can see, again, I did shift here. Even if you're saying the shift accounted for a half a second, like, we're still going down to 3.5 seconds around. We're still doing like a 4/10 of a second. Huge upgrade. So this right here, again, I'll post a link to that stuff. This is kind of a better parameter or a better litmus test, I think, to go off this and say, hey, because a lot of horsepower and dynos, just like I kind of use the same. I use virtual dyno with my data logs. But again, you can fabricate data and make it look however the hell you want, right? I could make it look like I have 700 horsepower if I really fucking wanted to. So, and the same thing with a dyno that you go to, right? And I'll make another video on this stuff about dyno tuning and road tuning and dynos in general. But, I mean, a Mustang dyno can read 20% less than a dyno jet dyno. And then there's mainline. There's different kinds of dynos. There's and how they have them set up is a huge thing. Like, I like using virtual dyno, because I feel like it's more of a real world. It's literally using the data log, the data from the street, with air resistance, with just the proper amount of airflow. With dynos, you're going to, maybe I'm just like getting older. With dynos, you're more, I guess maybe dyno is the old school method, but with a dyno, you're kind of trying to force air and pretend, like, especially if you have a top mount or something like that, force air and cool stuff off. You may be able to get more or less on a virtual dyno. So, varying degrees. If you don't want to use a dyno, or you don't need to, you can do this test too. A Dragy is like $150-$200, I think now. Very easy setup, and you can easily see as you progress what kind of horsepower gains or gains you're making in general. This is a great one as well for at least people with the STI 6-speed, because in third gear, if you just keep it in third gear, this will be, well, it won't be a good test for the USDM guys. And that's another reason why I kind of went out, I think, here, because 80 miles an hour in my third gear is literally 7,900 RPMs. Like, it's like, 7,800 RPMs. Most USDM models won't rev out that far, right? They only rev out to 7,000. So you would have to shift into fourth gear. I can literally do this entire thing in third. So that will give me kind of a leg up there, because I don't have to, I just rev it out to 8. because I need to do that for the logs anyway that I'm sending to the tuner. So that does help me out quite a bit. But either way, what we're looking at, 3.6 or 3.16. Crazy 40 to 80 time. All right, let's go out to the garage. Let's look at the install, or the turbo installed. Go over a little bit what's left on the car, and then kind of I did some changes to the garage. Okay, so back in the garage. Finished up the car. Obviously, wanted to show the finished install. As you can see, that is turbo. That's got a ceramic coat. See, missing some bolts here, so we're missing a couple bolts, or some were stripped, so I went and bought some more, some locking washers for those. But we can see the complete motor. If you haven't seen it in a while, FPR was added. And then again, I have a blow-off valve. Don't do that unless your speed density tuned. I can do that because it won't hurt anything. Got a new lip. I don't know if I've shown that on the channel yet. And then the carbon fiber hood. I showed a video of doing that, but not it on the hood. Looks really good. But as you can see from the video, the garage has been kind of updated, fixed, cleaned up a lot. Hear me echoing in here. It had gotten really bad, so decided to remodel. That's why it took so long to kind of get these videos out. I'm not totally done yet, but it does look a lot better. Things are a lot more organized, as before they were not. And I got a slightly larger tool chest. Got to peel that sticker off the bottom, but and then moved the compressor outside and hooked it up to a switch. Obviously, the tank's a little bit low, so it needs to run. And then got everything off the floor. The last thing I would have to do is just clean up that fucking cluster. That is the engine hoist, an engine stand, and a transmission jack. I need to kind of get those out of the way. But otherwise, it looks great in here. I just used OSB plywood. I'm going to kind of put some trim around. Almost started doing it. I'm going to put some trim around. I have just some spare trim lying around. But was able to do all this for not very expensive. The OSB was about $300. And then screws. I had some deck screws already, but I needed to buy some. It was about $30. Then I was going to buy a secondhand toolbox, but I ended up just buying a new one, which was deeper and fit everything. It's still like a 26-inch or 27-inch. It's not a huge one. But I also bought this workbench for $100 used. So those two combined cost me about $300 because Black Friday stuff, and then this was used. And then this shelf was free. Someone was giving it away for free. And I just used OSB plywood and then put these fender washers on here. And secured to this frame to make sure it won't go anywhere, because there is a lot of weight on this. And I also hooked up to the plywood and anchored it to the wall so it won't move or go anywhere. And then this shelf was like $30. Now it houses all my stuff, fluids, if you will. And then I was able to finally get my creeper back, because the 6-speed, the spare one I have, has just been sitting on it for like nearly a year. But okay, we're digressing a lot. Obviously, just wanted to catch people up who were familiar with the car, my garage, just everything. And again, to summarize, the turbo, amazing. Pavel, if you're watching this, just you're doing the Lord's work. Great job on that. Great job on this. Just the research that went into it. Obviously, it's been around for probably, I want to say, I mean, he can probably comment on it, but 5-6 years, maybe more. I just wasn't aware of it. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this turbo upgrade. So now it's more readily accessible, more documented. Great turbo, no downsides, unless the motor blows up because I'm running too much boost, but no downsides in terms of lag, nothing, fitment, anything. Just I can't think of any downsides at all besides having to install it, but I like installing parts. So, all right, I'll leave you with the motor. Thanks, YouTube.